What's up, guys? Grant here with Smooth. I'm at the basketball court and I don't have a mic on, so I wasn't planning on shooting anything. So in terms of the audio, I hope it's coming through. I hope you can hear me crystal clear, and if not, turn up the volume and just tolerate poor production quality on this one video. All right, so I didn't think I was gonna make it down to the basketball court today because I've been dealing with some knee pain, and this has got me bummed, kind of questioning some things, and you can go down this whole sort of mental and emotional rabbit hole. So I wanted to first talk to you about what that experience has been like for me and how I've navigated that in the past and how I'm navigating it now. And then I'll show you a few things that I've been working on today. So I've been able to get some shots up, do some ball handling, but during that process, really seeing how more so my hips are loading and then rotating to see how that interacts with the knee, to take some pressure off the knee. Because most of the time when we experience some sort of knee pain, it's going to be the result of something happening down through the foot and the ankle, and then also up at the hip. So it really is a whole chain thing, and I'm going to talk you through that, walk you through that, show you a few examples of what I've been playing around with today. So wordy intro, again, deal with it off the cuff. All right, so in terms of that whole mental and emotional roller coaster that injuries and pain can really send you down, it's a tricky thing, right? It really is this mind-body connection, and we want to acknowledge the pain. We want to listen to the symptoms, listen to the signals, the communication that the body is providing for us. It's looking to communicate with us. It's in relationship with us, and if we kind of butt heads with our body, fight against our body, then that's only going to make things worse. Maybe not just in the moment, but definitely in the long run. So that is something that you definitely want to look at. Any sort of training, movement practice, just general self-care. You are in relationship with your body. Think of it as your friend, your partner in this situation. How would you communicate in that way? So I used to go into these big multi-week, maybe few month kind of depressions when I'd get injured, and it would really magnify everything. And you can look at this as kind of owning the injury or the symptoms, right? If I identify with my symptoms, if I identify with my injury, if I identify with the sensations, the pain, then I'm going to take those on and they're going to become part of me. So what I've really worked on over, and I'm not saying I'm great at it, right? But it's been an improvement, a gradual improvement over time. What I've really worked on is to rent that injury, rent that pain, that sensation, whatever's going on there, because I know deep down, my belief is that my body is going to heal and I'm going to be able to move past that. So it's not like I'm completely ignoring it and just going about it and just, believing, oh, I don't need rest, I don't need to do anything to support this and heal this. No, it's being real about that, but also like, okay, this is not going to define me in the future, right? This is not going to stop me. So this week, dealing with this knee pain, just not, I don't really think there's anything wrong with it, right? I've been through stuff like this before, and that's another component of this. The more sort of aches and pains, little tweaks, injuries that you go through and kind of heal through is an opportunity for you to create that self-belief, right? And build that muscle of communicating with the body. So it hasn't been like any particular ranges or any particular angles, just occasionally there's just this really sharp pain, right? And there's a lot of tightness around this area too. I can feel a lot of gripping here. Well, let's just fast forward a little bit to kind of the whole deal with the hip, knee, and ankle. Let's say I'm lacking stability or mobility in this area or up here at the hip as well. right? I'm lacking the ability to load through the hip. That's typically where I find my issue. The foot and ankle usually come online. I did break this fibula here, so this foot and ankle, you know, there's a lot of tension that it does hold, but same sort of thing. If I'm able to drive that in and find my hip here, a lot of the stuff, a lot of the gripping that happens through my knee, through my calf, through my shin, through my foot, that starts to dissipate and everything starts to work together. So this tightening sensation here, right? This signal of stiffness or pain or limitation, it's a protection. So okay, I'm bouncing all over the place here, but it's all gonna make sense, hopefully. So when you're in relationship with your body, right? Let's say I ask the question like, why is this happening to me? So if your intent is just to kind of complain and say, woe is me and I'm the victim, right? You don't want an answer to that question, right? You just want to complain. And that's okay. Like, I'm not judging by any means. That's an opportunity to vent. But take it a step further once you get past that vent. If you ask that question, why is this happening to me? Well, okay, what signals, what symptoms am I receiving from my body, right? So for instance, with my knee here, experiencing a lot of tightness, right? It's protecting itself. Why does it feel the need to protect itself and secure itself? Well, because the homies in the hip and the foot and the ankle aren't really pulling their weight, right? So I've got to be like, all right, what can I do? Let's take it into that. So first things first, I'm just gonna, I've gotten a lot of this stuff from foundation training, and there's this one thing they use called the sphere of tension, and it's an opportunity to like create a sphere through your hands and kind of have this spherical nature, create some space through the rib cage, which will feed into the anchor point through the hips and the pelvis. So actually using a ball is a really great way to play around with this. So of course, when it comes to loading the hips, right, the classic hip hinge, I want the ability to load my hips, right, not flaring the rib cage here, not rounding, although those serve their purposes in certain circumstances, right? You do want to practice those positions. I don't want to rule those out. But when it comes to really feeling stable and secure, right, if I'm picking something off the ground or I'm reaching something out like this in front of me, I've got to make sure that I can load that back side. So that's going to be heel, outer pad of the foot, and big toe pad of the foot. And I would show you a few things through the feet, but I've got my sweet New Balance, what are these called? Two-way, because I'm a two-way player, sneakers on, so I'm going to keep them on and we'll save that for another video. So when you hinge those hips back, you drive the feet through the ground, through those three contact points, you can start to find that hip capsule, right? The femur bone coming back into the hip. Now for me, what I've been noticing is the tendency to kind of shift over here. And that can be a result of just kind of how I bias that way anyway. But let's say I'm experiencing some pain, where am I gonna go? Right, I'm gonna start to load this hip more. So when in this position, I wanna work on some anchoring techniques. The ball might get in the way here. Please stay straight. Cool. So as I chop my hips back, a slight knee bend, but I'm really focusing on loading the hips, I can get heavy through that heel and spread the floor. And what I'm gonna notice here is the ability to feel into a little bit more depth in this hip, right? So I'm able to breathe into that. I can take that sphere of tension out here in front, so if my lower back is arching, I can kind of get a better idea of how that rib cage is plugging into my core and having a better relationship between rib cage and pelvis. So the other thing I can do is I can anchor in. So one of the things that happens sometimes with the anchor in is the knees come out or they actually cave in. So I want to feel that heaviness through the heel, find the hips, and then I'm going to squeeze together there. And when I do this, I'm literally feeling this hip kind of creating a little bit more space out here, a little bit more real estate. I can feel where it's clinging on. So I'll do this, sure, to get back into my hips, but we also want to see how that dynamically shows up. So we will go into some different positions like this. So let's say I go a little bit wider. I want you to angle your feet in just a little bit. Same thing, find that heel. You're gonna chop the hips back. You're gonna feel those inner thighs spiral a little bit back there, and you're spreading the floor, driving through that big toe pad. You can even pick your toes up where you're feeling that big toe pad and that outer pad right there. And that's really gonna help you kind of feel that outer line and inner line up the legs. And you're gonna notice how much support that your hips are providing for your entire leg. So when it comes to my knee, in this position, I'm able to build that support. Now, am I gonna be playing basketball in this position? No, that's fine. But understanding that loading the hips is going to be a huge component of anything that you're doing, right? That really is gonna be more of your center of mass and how your legs are going to be moving. So if I do find myself in a basketball position, right? So let's say I cross over here. Well, one of the things I've been working on today is, all right, I can feel a lot of tension through the quad. I can notice the quad's taking a lot of that load. Now, I can start by kind of internally rotating this back foot, driving through. I'm not just spinning, but driving through. That's gonna allow me to load into this a little bit more, into that back pocket. And I wanna feel that rotation happening up through the hip and all the musculature around the hip, taking some pressure off of the rotation through the knee. And that might mean coming a little bit out of that knee bend, and that's fine. Driving pressure through, building that tension up. And then I also like to add like a little reach here across the body. So this is like in line with the knee. And now I've got this nice anchoring line of this back leg that if I start to rotate a little bit more through that line, it's not just the upper body, it's not just the lower body, I'm reaching through that, I'm feeling that in the back pocket here. So now when I'm in this position and I go into a deeper knee bend, maybe I come up a little bit more, I can feel into that sensation of my hip working there. It's not just about being in that position, it's about using that position to find that support, to find that connection. And once you have that connection, you can start to play with it. Let's see, we got anything else there? All right, so I'm gonna give you one more from a different angle on this side. So let's say I cross over, boom, here, right? I'm in this orange position. You can see my energy's going this way. So as I pivot this back leg, I'm gonna start to feel this front leg load up a little bit more. If I'm having trouble accessing that hip, it feels like a lot of quad, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna chop that hip back, drive through this foot as well, and I'm gonna load. And right here I can feel a lot of that lateral hip coming out here, not really in my hip capsule, and then maybe some of that going into the knee and the outside of the calf. So I'm gonna drive through that foot. And all of this is a communication, right? I'm giving my body an opportunity to feel stronger and safer, feel that connection, everything working together. And so when I've got that energy loaded up through this hip, I can start to come up into this position where I'm more upright, but I'm still in those hips. Maybe it's a little bit more knee, right? Maybe it's not so much a stretch back through the hip here, but it's a little bit more squeeze. That's okay, I've found that depth. And this is where it comes to a lot of postural stuff. There's a few systems that go into this a ton, but when it comes to your ability to sense the backside of your body, it really is starting through that heel. So even if I'm on the ball of my foot, if I'm living here, right, this is nowhere to be stable from. But if I'm back and I feel that depth of the heel here, I'm accessing the backside of my body. I'm creating that anchor back there. So if I'm able to sense the heel of my body without my hips coming forward like this, where I'm actually able to kind of pull myself, like it's almost like I'm pulling the heel to give myself more of that upright nature, and then allow my inner thighs to kind of spiral down towards the ground. This is going to allow me to start to feel into balance through the body. And when I get into my shot, all right, since I know so many of you are super into basketball, but hey, it's an application, right? When I get into my shot, boom, like this, okay, yeah, I'm gonna be a little bit staggered. So let's say the basket's right there. I'm gonna be a little bit staggered. I'm left-handed, I'm shooting here, right? So this left hip is coming forward. That might be kind of something that promotes this hip rotating, and I'm not really loading back here. So something I wanna do every time I'm getting into a shot today is I'm just kind of pausing here for a moment and feeling that out. Maybe a little spread, maybe a little bit of squeeze. How am I loading through my hips? Of course, I'm not gonna be here, right? I'm gonna be in kind of this squinge position, a little bit more upright, a little bit more quad load, but how can I take some pressure off the knee, allow movement and support to come here so the knee doesn't have to tolerate that? So a few different angles. Man, we're at 16 minutes. I thought I was being so efficient. Not really. So, but there's some good nuggets in there, right? So there's the mindset piece of working through an injury. It's going to be a challenge, right? It's never fun to have to kind of slow up, but it's also a massive opportunity that can lead to a ton of expansion in the future, and you getting to know your body on a different level, right? So it wants to talk, it wants to communicate, it's giving you some symptoms. Let's chat, let's get into it, right? Explore, feel where the support is, breathe through it, take some rest, that's okay, right? There's plenty of different things that you could do to continue to further that conversation, rather than just like try to come out here and play super hard or hit up one of my buddies and try to play some one-on-one and probably do a little bit more damage and let's see, like prolong the recovery process of confidence for my knee, right? Because I know there's really nothing wrong with it. It's more so just it's been taking a little bit too much load, right? So there's that. And then also, even if you're noticing something that doesn't really relate to the hips, it's gonna be a good opportunity to get in the hips, because when I get into that hip hinge, especially on this left side, I've had, injuries, surgery on this side, like there's a lot of sensation that can come up and kind of cinch up on that leg. And it literally all starts at the hip and communicating through the foot and that heel. And then everything starts to kind of work in unison. And I gotta trust my body too, right? It's not like I'm consciously going into this all the time. I want to populate, or I want to provide information to my brain that there's movement there, that there's support there, that it can feel safer. And then I want to take that into other stuff. So this is the aspect of like training and practicing something, and then like taking it into like more play where it's just reflex. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up. Thanks so much if you made it to minute 19 of this video. You rock. Let me know how this resonates with you in the comments below. If you found something helpful, drop it in the comments. And if you have any further questions, you want some more expansion on anything I talked about in this video or showcased in this video, leave that in the comments. Subscribe, like it. See you next time. Stay smooth.